Welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast, broadcasting to you live from emosocialclub.tv. I am Brian.
And I'm Lizzie, and we're here this evening with record label owner and Plain White T's frontman, Tom Higgenson. Thank you so much for coming on. We're super excited to have you here.
Absolutely. Thank you guys. This is really, really fun. I'm super stoked to be here. I'm excited to see what we're going to talk for like an hour or so. I don't know.
Yeah.
Where's this going to go? Is it going to be spontaneous? I love doing obviously over the quarantine, it's like, you know, podcasts have really kind of blown up. So I've been starting to do more and more of these, and I'm kind of getting hooked. I don't know. I like it. I like the the fun openness to it. So yeah, I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been doing I know you've been doing a bunch now because of all of your new projects. Do you want to tell us like what you're up to right now? Because we got you for the record label, Humans Were Here, but you're also doing a band Million Miler right now too.
Yeah, so I'm basically I'm just one of those weirdos that can never like stand or like sit still, you know? Like I've got to be doing something. And
Sure.
Luckily it's all very you know, it's all productive, and it's all just kind of tapping into, you know, obviously I love music, right? So it's just all kind of different facets of that. So starting, obviously you guys know me from Plain White T's the most. So starting to demo a new record for Plain White T's, which is really exciting. Hopefully later on this year, we'll get in the studio and have some new music with Plain White T's. But in the meantime, like I said, over the quarantine, aside from doing a bunch of podcasts, I started a 80's synth pop side project, which might sound kind of weird, but I've always loved the 80's. By the way, can you guys hear? Is there like a really loud lawnmower in this feed, or is it
Not
just
really?
No.
Okay, good.
No
I kind of live like
kind of, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, now it's getting louder. I don't know if it's a helicopter or a lawnmower. I live on kind of like a busy street, so it's like it's, you know, terrible for situations like this. Yeah. Anyway, so over the this last, you know, crazy year where we've all been stuck inside, I've just been writing a ton of music, and luckily I do a lot of the production stuff myself. I work with one other guy, my buddy Dan, to do all the production and stuff. But yeah, so I launched an 80's synth pop side project called Million Miler. And it's actually like, it feels like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, you guys. This is so annoying. It's annoying to me. Like, are they in my yard right now?
Like we're all, you're in the burbs of Chicago, right?
Yeah. I don't think it's raining by me right now.
Yeah,
No, it was just raining by me.
Like,
it was just raining by me in the burbs. So
oh, wow.
It migrated.
Yeah. It's raining. Might as well get out there with my lawnmower. That's wild.
Yeah. What the hell? So anyway, long story short, Million Miler. It's like, cause you know, I've always loved the 80's, and the last Plain White T's album actually was called Parallel Universe, and we kind of tapped into that vibe a little bit. You know, kind of had some synth stuff and some electro stuff, but you know, with Plain White T's, we don't want to go too far into that or too far out of our like, you know, our wheelhouse. So I was like, man, like I really want to do more of this. So it basically just led to me starting a solo project. Also big fan of Stranger Things, of course. I think that kind of brought the 80's back for everybody, you know?
Absolutely.
And there's this club in Los Angeles that I go to a lot called Break Room 86. And it's literally like a speakeasy that, I swear to God, it's like a time machine back to the 80's. Like you walk in and you're instantly in like a John Hughes movie, like at a club with like a band playing. It's just so badass. And so going there a lot, and then mixed with Stranger Things, mixed with us dabbling with the 80's thing with Plain White T's, it just kind of led me to do Million Miler, just a passion project.
Yeah. That bar sounds awesome.
Dude, if you guys, I mean, honestly, I hope to God that it makes it, you know, through all this, because obviously, you know, I feel like bars and restaurants are kind of on the chopping block, you know, with this last year. So we shall see. Maybe I'll keep you guys posted once I get back out there to see if it's still around. I hope so. But yeah,
there we go. We'll take an emo social club trip out to LA for no other reason.
Hell yeah.
Just for straight vibes.
Yeah, field trip. Let's go. I'll meet you guys there. So besides Million Miler, I also do I play drums in a punk band called TLB with some other Chicagoans here. And then I started a record label about a year and a half, 2 years ago called Humans Were Here. And so that's, aside from having a couple artists on that label outside of stuff that I'm doing, it's also a great funnel for all of my projects as well. So keeping pretty busy through all this. It's been really cool.
Yeah. Sounds like it. I mean, the last year has been the last year's been kind of crazy for a lot of people for many different reasons. And obviously keeping busy being like the main thing everybody wants to do. And I know a lot of people have just been like, well, I have the internet and I have access to do all this stuff, so might as well.
Yeah.
I'm interested because, it was kind of like end of 2019, where a bunch of bands that were from like the old Warped Tour days, the old, the pop punk scene, the emo scene, were all like, I think we're going to get back together for 2020. And that didn't work out for a lot of people, clearly. But I was kind of curious because Plain White T's has kind of been together ever since, right? Like you guys have never taken really a major hiatus or broken up or anything like that. And rather than doing just nostalgia tours, rather than doing the same, Plain White T's songs for everybody, you decided to enter some new projects and do some new projects in that time. What was the inspiration as opposed to, leaning on that nostalgia and that rising of all of these things on TikTok and the internet and all that, instead of going back to that and doing some newer things instead?
Well, I don't know. I'm always, like I said earlier, I'm just obsessed with music. I love music. So I don't know, for me, there's always something more to say, I guess, and there's always music always inspires me. This year, two of the greatest albums of all time came out, The Weeknd, After Hours, and The Strokes, the new Abnormal, two phenomenal albums. And those really got me through the pandemic. Those, how lucky, I don't know if you guys are fans of either of those artists, but how lucky as a fan that two of my favorite artists just happened to have an album done, before everything shut down. It was just perfect timing. It's like you hear albums like that and it just makes you want to write music. It makes you want to create more. So for me, I'm a very nostalgic guy, by the way. I got no problem going back and, hey there, Delilah, 1, 2, 3, 4 all day long. But there's always something, there's always something driving me. And I think, I don't know. I think that I'll always be I guess for better or worse, I'll always be pushed to just keep creating and just keep putting out music.
And that's really exciting to have that drive. And it's also, you're making just such new things, and it's just not kind of regurgitated from the older things you have already done, especially because with your recent project, you have this new album coming out on May 10th. And I've been listening to some of the stuff that you've already put out, and it's definitely, I feel attention grabbing. And I also think it's what the kids just really like in general now, because everybody is just kind of not regressing in a bad way, but they're taking stock and times that they either weren't able to live in, or times that they did live in, and they're just looking back upon as a comfort method after this last chaotic year.
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because I was thinking when the pandemic started, and I'll talk about the new album and all those songs. Thank you, by the way, for checking some of those songs out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I was telling a friend of mine at the beginning of the pandemic, it's because obviously running a record label, we're always kind of on the lookout for a new artist or somebody that piques our interest or whatever. And when the pandemic started, it was we don't have to sign anybody for a while, because nobody right now is going to care about new music. Everybody's going to want to listen to something that makes them feel like you said, comfortable, like makes them feel good, like something that they know, because we're moving into these uncharted territory, this uncharted territory with pandemic. So you're going to want to grab onto something that, from a time that made you feel good, so it's kind of funny that you say that. And that happens to be, I didn't do that, obviously that wasn't planned out with Million Miler. It just happens to be my like, passion project to kind of tap into those 80s synth pop, synth wave vibes. But yeah, I think that I hope you're right. I think people seem to be reacting really well to the project because it has that built in, yeah, like that nostalgia and that just, feel good. Oh my God, dudes. I got freaking Texas Chainsaw Massacre outside.
They're saying I need to have the best suburban lawn right now
Yeah,
while
right?
it's raining.
Yeah, ridiculous. Well, I guess it's not raining out by me because I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
guess.
see a window, but anyway, yeah. So that's I think people are really relating to it well because I'm a sucker for like just writing super honest lyrics. I always try to tell my story, and I feel like people have always been able to relate to that to some extent. Just lyrically. So you match that to those synth vibes that are just soaked in like obviously I don't know if you guys have seen the album cover for the Million Miler record that's coming May 10th, but it's just like literally just a beach getaway with palm trees, like a classic like a Corvette and a bonfire with a boombox sitting there. It's like how can you kind of go wrong? It's like who doesn't want to be in that moment? And I don't think that's like it could be the 80s or it could be today. It's like I don't know. It's just a vibe. Like you said vibe a few times tonight, Lizzie. It's like that's a vibe that I kind of feel like is kind of timeless. And I, for one, always want to I always want to be in that mindset.
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
Which beach? I'm like thinking like Chicago. I'm like, yeah, just on Lake Michigan, I guess. But also like,
well, I'm
yeah.
more of a, around, obviously I travel all the time. I spend a lot of time in California. So in my mind, it's more of like a California. I mean, I've got a song called Zuma Beach. I'm actually doing a record release party on May 10th at Zuma Beach. I figure like, well, we can't really get together indoors or anything yet. So why not just like have a bunch of people hang out at the beach and I'll play a few songs. So that's what I'm doing on May 10th. But
Nice.
so yeah, I'm picturing a California beach maybe, but
Okay.
around here, I don't know about you guys, but around here, all of my childhood vacations were all like Lake Michigan, like, up the coast of Michigan there. I'd always go. My aunt and uncle have a place, that we still to this day will like head out to in the summer and like spend a night at the beach. And, I don't know. So yeah, I love the fact that we all grew up here because there is that body of water right there. It's like, even though we're Chicago, it's like a big major city. We still kind of have that, like, we're an hour away from like a super beach getaway. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. A lot of people
the
like
best of both worlds here.
Exactly. They don't realize like, oh, we have the big city. We've got all this stuff. And then it's like, yeah, you want to get down to like a body of water in the hot weather. And then they're like, well, you only have like 3 days of that. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of fair.
It's like, but you got 3 whole days.
Yeah. And then it's like one of them's in March.
We make the most of those 3 days. That's for sure.
Yeah. We did get a couple of questions on Instagram about Chicago food. And I'm like, I don't know how it always gets to like the Chicago food conversation with like a lot of people who are like not in Chicago, not in Illinois, are just like, hey, pizza's cool there. And it's like, yeah.
We're more than just our pizza.
I mean, pizza's pretty cool everywhere, I gotta say,
Yeah, agreed. And like everybody's always confused about the deep dish. And then it's like, why are we talking about deep dish? It's not something we have all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's weird, right? People think that Chicago style pizza, so everybody eats that in Chicago all the time. But it's like, yeah, like you said, it's maybe a few times a year we go deep dish.
Yeah. And then
Lou Malnati's, by the way. What do you
Fair.
guys think?
Okay.
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
a
that-
Giordano's person.
Oh, okay.
so-
So I love Giordano's. I actually love Giordano's thin crust better than their deep dish,
Ooh.
and I like Lou Malnati's deep dish. No? I don't know.
That's
That's
fair.
fair.
Their thin Giordano's thin crust is pretty on point. I will give it that. Lou Malnati's thin crust doesn't hit as much. Their deep dish is
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's just really
Oh.
cheesy for me personally, but I like the
Well,
sauce.
See, yeah, I like cheese. I like cheese, so
Mhm.
there you go. That
There we go.
explains it.
I was going to say Pequods.
Mm.
That's the one that I tend to go for. But even chat right now is like thin
classic.
crust over everything. And I'm like, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Midwestern, what is it called, Lizzie? The like parlor style, tavern style? Yeah.
Tavern style. Wow, words are hard.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing about Chicago as well. I don't think a lot of places, you know, how we cut our thin crust in squares. I don't think a lot of
Yes.
people do that, right? Isn't that kind of a Chicago thing or a
I think
Midwest
so.
thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because I know people are like, why don't you just cut it like a normal slice? And I'm like, I don't know. This is what they gave us, and we said, okay, it works.
It's a
I
good
wasn't
point,
consulted.
I
I
wasn't
grew up in this.
consulted.
I was born
feel
here. I
like-
can't control it.
Don't you guys feel like cutting it smaller into the squares? And I've just had this realization right now in this moment. We probably eat way more because if we had like a big ass triangle, it would be like, oh, that's our piece. You eat that, oh, maybe you're still a little hungry. You're not going to take another big ass triangle and start eating that,
Mhm.
right? So I
Mhm.
think cutting it into the little squares, it's like you can forever eat like one more of those, you know?
Oh,
So
yeah.
you just probably
Yeah.
keep going back to it. So I don't know. Maybe that's a little.
It's like a mind
epiphany I
game
just
that you
had
play with
right there.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I realized that I introduced this entire section of the podcast by saying, man, we always end up talking about pizza. We should talk about pizza.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, wow, that really did this.
Yeah, you kind of
But also-
indirectly led us there.
Yeah, I know. Tacos were brought up too. And I honestly think that the conversation is moving more from Chicago pizza. And it's like, now if you're coming to Chicago, like if you're visiting, go get tacos. Go to a really good Mexican restaurant instead.
For sure. You know what though? I'm bad because I'm a suburban kid, so I don't really know like what are some of the really good Mexican places in the city. I'm probably not even hip to them.
Yeah. There's a lot that are like just like, you know, Big Star is like a really well-known, I guess, in like the Wicker Park area, now in Wrigleyville area. So of course you have like that kind of a place. It's good. It's not traditional. It's just kind of, you know, a really good, more like
It's
chain
like
style
it's the
thing.
hipster version
Yeah.
of what you're looking for. Like if you're like, I want to go out and like just be that person.
And a
that's where you
pitcher
go.
margaritas. We had a couple people that were visiting recently that we said Lonesome Rose, which is in Logan. It's really good. There's a few other kinds of places like that, but I mean, a lot of people, it's like the corner place is my favorite. You know, the place that you just like a family owned, and you just kind of walk in and it's cash only, and you're like, yeah, I'll take all these. Also, kind of depends on the time of day. If you're like leaving the bar, maybe everything.
Yeah. Over by me, we've got Los Burritos Mexicanos. Are you guys
There
familiar?
you go.
There's also a Los,
I mean-
Los Dos, Los Burritos 2, right by here too. So they've got the they've got the hold on the west suburbs for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say I'm out in the west burbs too, so we're pretty much at the same level.
you go.
Yeah.
I have a friend
Oh, yeah.
who lives out in Pilsen though, so I'll go there and we'll always go to we usually go to Coyote Taco, and that's really good. And it's obviously in Pilsen, so everything is like super authentic.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, okay, let's talk a bit more about I guess the music and the record label, get off the taco conversation.
We'll migrate over. But like we were talking about, Tom, before we got on here, I mentioned that I actually went to see Plain White Tees at Metro before this panorama happened, and I got one of your CD samplers. And when we originally got the email from Caitlin and to set this up, I was like putting two and two together, and I know you had said that that was just kind of like something that you had thought about and like organically kind of coming back around in like a positive way.
Yeah, I love that. So for anybody that doesn't know, I made a CD sampler for my record label, Humans Were Here. And a CD sampler like in 2019 or whatever is probably the dumbest idea of all time because no one plays CDs anymore. And I was like, well, it's almost like a glorified flyer, basically. You know, it's like even if these get thrown, you know, into the, you know, it becomes a frisbee for somebody, it has a point to it, right? It's just getting that name out there, letting people, you know, literally like it's square one for me. Like, you know, I'm doing all this stuff myself. All the merch orders coming in, I'm filling in my basement, you know, and going to the post office and shipping them out myself. So it's all very, very grassroots. It very much reminds me of like the early days of Plain White Tees, you know. It's funny. It's kind of like starting a band, but it's like a label instead, you know. It's the same vibe for sure. So yeah, the fact that Lizzie, you said that you were at that show at the Metro a year and a half ago, and you got one of those CDs, and then when you were when the label reached out to you about me getting on the podcast, you were like, oh yeah, I remember that. I have that CD, and that's the point. You know, that's kind of the whole point. Like even though you probably didn't even listen to the damn thing, but like you saw it, you held it in your hand, and I think there's something about like, you know, that tangibility of it, like the fact that we all live on our phones now and we're all, you know, so connected to whether it's Instagram or just whatever, you know, to actually hold something like I said, even if it gets thrown in the trash the next day, you still had that moment of touching it, looking at it, and it's in there somewhere, you know? So you had the moment, the full circle moment, you know, when you got reached out to and by the label or whatever, but there's going to be somebody that hears, you know, sees a Million Miler video in a few months randomly and is like, Million Miler, where have I heard of that? And they remember, oh yeah, that sampler I got, you know? So it's just a matter of just getting the word out there somehow. And me being kind of an old school guy, it's like, I remember back when I was promoting Plain White Tees, I would make flyers. I would stand outside shows, much like I did at my own show and gave you a CD, you know, like, and just pass out, you know, just talk to everybody I could, meet people, pass out flyers for old Plain White Tees shows, being like, hey, my band's playing, you know, down the block next weekend. You got to come out, whatever. It's like, I don't know. Sometimes that's the best way in an age, especially now when everything is so easy and so in your hand on your phone, you know, to actually have someone in your face saying, hi, this is mine. This is for you. I want to hand this to you. This is what I'm working on now. You know, I think that there's still a big place for that. And I think, honestly, like I said, maybe even more so because it's so much more rare now. And it's like you know, it's rare to have a bit of personal, you know, hand to hand kind of a thing. So yeah, anyway, long story short, I'm glad that you got the CD and you remembered it. And that basically is like validation that like, okay, yeah, that was all worth it, you know?
Yeah, it all worked. I remember, you know, with old bands of mine, it's like, hey, let's go to like the A Day to Remember show and like stand outside and just talk to people and hand them that. And it was like, yeah, this feels like it really works. And yeah, it's kind of interesting now when we're talking about like how nobody owns things, let alone like owning a CD player. Like nobody owns things. Nobody owns music anymore. They're just like, yeah, I'll just pull up whatever song on YouTube or Spotify and just play it that way off my phone. And it's like, now I actually own like a CD and a piece of music. And it's like, the hell do I do with this? You know,
Dude,
but it's
totally.
like, you remember
Absolutely.
it now because it's so rare. Like now, if you are, if you're that guy standing outside of a show and you give somebody something and you talk to them for a little bit, like that's going to mean so much more to that person, even now, even in the time when everyone's just texting and on the internet, watching streams, watching videos and all that on their phone. It's like, yeah, still have that like human contact. I think I'm just really missing human contact. Maybe that was the point of what I was trying to say.
Be it, actually. You might just miss like actually like talking to other people outside of your household.
Like a crisp high five outside of a show would change my life right now.
Dude, I can't wait. So we have a couple of Plain White Tees shows that are coming up. Like, not to brag or anything, but our next show is in Hawaii in a few weeks. Yeah, I know. It's like a subtle, what do you call that? A humble brag or something?
Yeah.
But the point is, it's like people, like they're kind of starting to just slowly trickle in. And obviously, you know, we've been super, like we haven't done anything that has been, you know, at all risky or anything. We've been super strict within the band about not taking shows or not taking offers that, you know, seemed like they would be risky or anything or put people at risk. So yeah, but slowly and surely, especially now that the vaccine is kind of getting out there, like that's going to start happening more and more. And I feel like I just saw, you know, Synthwave, the Million Miler project, a band that I love, The Midnight. Do you guys know them at all?
Yes, I've heard of them. It's been a real long time since I heard them, but I remember.
Yeah, they're freaking great. But they just announced a rescheduled tour for like starting in November of this year. And it was like, whoa, like a freaking tour is, you know, like it's just crazy to think that like those days of like, yeah, high-fiving outside of a venue, they're like kind of right around the corner, you know? And that's pretty exciting. It's going to be really, really cool to like start having those experiences again. Because I don't know about you guys. It's like, I mean, obviously for me, playing shows all the damn time, very easy to kind of take it for granted and not realize just how special those moments were until this last year when it was all taken away.
Yeah, you know? Until now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going to them all the time, I guess, is like, yeah, it's just kind of like your normal thing. Like when we were talking about what to do with this podcast, you know, and it's like, well, what do we love doing? And it's like, well, we love doing live events. It's like, oh shit, like we can't do this. We can't get together with people. We can't bring them in. We can't even record the podcast. Like we would record it in my studio here. And it's like, well, we can't do that. Like nobody can come over to my apartment anymore. So, you know, what do we do now? And it's like, yeah, just, it definitely feels like, you know, I've gotten used to this feeling of like being at home, being in this room, being, you know, working on a computer, only looking at screens and not high-fiving anybody. But it's like, I guess I'm certainly feeling like I want it again, I guess. But I'm also, I don't know, kind of nervous, kind of like anxious about it.
Mean, that makes sense. But like Chicago today just announced like effective immediately, they're starting to slowly open up more with like their events and concerts and the capacity. I mean, Windy City Smokeout just announced like, I think it was like over 12,000, I think 500 people per day are allowed at that. And I think it's in like July. So it's like we are starting to get there. And I know that there's like a big disconnect too, because, you know, Riot Fest is supposed to be happening too. And my siblings are going to Summer Smash. And I'm like, are we safe enough to do this? And it's like, I kind of want this to happen, but I have this weird like back and forth with it. It's just because I'm like, I would like to see people. I would like to interact with people again. Yeah.
Well, I just traveled recently, so I'm obviously before the pandemic, literally I was flying somewhere like once a week almost. You know, it was constantly just go, and so just recently, and I haven't, you know, it was March 12th, I remember, of 2020. I flew home. Everything was starting to, you know, get weird, so I flew home, and then I hadn't traveled at all for over a year. And so just recently, a couple weeks ago, after getting, you know, my second dose and everything, I got on a flight. I went to LA for the first time anywhere in over a year. And so LA, you know, it was beautiful. Like it was sunny. It was amazing. but I tell you what, like I felt super weird. Like
Hmm.
I felt like not that I wasn't ready, but kind of what you guys were saying. It's almost like okay, cool. It was like I've been waiting for a year to be able to do this. I did everything right and played it super safe. I got vaccinated, so now it's kind of like okay for me to do this again. But it was still like I had to like it took me a while to like yeah, to not be just kind of super weird, like anxiety freaked out. Like, am I okay doing this? Or is this safe?
Hmm.
Or and it wasn't even like I was thinking that literally, but like after having those thoughts for the past year, it's like almost like my you know, you couldn't help but like kind of have that in the back of your head. Just a little bit like a, you know, 10% of just some weird like fear of like people and doing anything. Yeah, outside. I've had a really great year in this room, you know, like so leaving it is a little bit like, man, it definitely is going to take some getting used to, but I think that you know, I think it's like you guys said, it's like you want to be able to do that, and you know, it's like 90% of me is like, oh, this is awesome, and this is good, and this is like, you know, what I'm supposed to be doing, or what is supposed to, you know, like kind of what I've been waiting for. But yeah, there's definitely that weirdo 10% where it's like, man, like, you know, because I don't know about you guys, but like you kind of got convinced like, man, if I give someone a hug, I could die, you know? And that's a
Hmm.
pretty messed up mentally like mental thought, you know? And so no matter what, it's like living with that for a year, I think definitely gonna take some getting used to and gonna take a little bit of you know, just a little bit of time to kind of get through that. Because that's like I said, it's a pretty messed up thought. And
Hmm.
so yeah, I just think mentally we're all it'll be a slow and steady you know, re-entry, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, neither condoning nor condemning MGK playing a show in Florida, but
Yeah.
I sent Lizzie. There's a full video of this concert online, and I'm like, well, I mean, it already happened, so I can at least enjoy it now on this video. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't
In
have
the
to
safety and
argue.
security of my
Yeah.
home.
A week
Right,
later, like I
right.
don't have to feel anything about that because it's like it already happened. What am I going to do? I may not have wanted to go and I may not have wanted it to happen, but I'll just watch this video. And I see him go like in the front of the audience and like hold the microphone out for them to sing it. And I was like, no,
Oh
no, no, no,
wow.
no, 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 no. It like I like
Totally.
had a visceral reaction to seeing it. I'm like, why? Because it's not me. I'm not there. It's not going to happen to me. But I'm also like, ooh, that's
Totally.
scary. That's going to be really weird. like
Yeah,
getting a microphone shoved in your face. Ugh.
we actually we had an offer for a show that we had to cancel in Florida just a couple months ago because it was like, yeah, like Florida is like a different animal, I feel like, you know?
Yeah,
Like
it is.
Truly.
they've kind of like ignored the pandemic, I feel like this whole year.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we knew that like I said, we anything that we have done, little things, we've made real sure we're like gonna be safe and gonna be, you know, protocol. And so yeah, Florida, we did not feel ready for Florida yet.
Yeah. Like
But yeah,
Yeah.
I
Like,
totally feel you. Like even in the past year of like seeing like old pictures of shows or seeing like crowds, hasn't it like made you like, oh my God, like I can't believe we did that, or I can't believe that was
yeah.
normal. Ugh.
Yeah.
oh yeah. Like I look at everything and I'm like, we used to just like be in massive pits of people watching shows. And we're
Yeah.
just like, yeah, this is fine. This is what I'm doing. And then I'm like, I already don't want nobody really near me, but I'm like, I really don't want anybody near me right now.
Yep.
I definitely feel like I'm gonna wear a mask at the first shows back just because like
You're just gonna have this cyberpunk vibe going. Listen,
yeah.
it's okay. It's what's in our scene. It's what the people want. It's what the people like.
I don't
Oh
know.
yeah.
There was
Yeah,
a
and
mosh pit
honestly,
in that video too. I was like, oh no. Oh
oh
no.
God. Yeah, and masks don't really bug me. You know, it's like I'm okay. Like if I have to wear a mask for the next year, like, hey, that's cool. You know, whatever. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to get, you know, anything like that. But for me, I think if I'm always a better safe than sorry kind of a guy. So it's
Mm.
like, I never really had the issue. I know there's some like anti-maskers or whatever. It's like, for me, it's like, hey, if this could like help, like keep people healthy, fine with me,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's a good way to go about it. I did want to get back to your your record release show though, because I saw it on your Instagram, and when you were talking about just playing it safe, I'm like, that is like such a great innovative idea to just say, hey, we're having this, but like there's strict restrictions, like we're all open and spread out, but we're wearing masks, but we're on the beach and we're having a good time. And I'm like, that's just like a really smart thing to do, and I really enjoyed seeing that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I actually had one of my things that anybody that shows up, I'm gonna make like 50 well, I don't know if it's gonna be 50, whatever, like little goodie bags to give to people if they show up. And one of the items is actually a Million Miler mask. So there you
Nice.
go.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
in case somebody shows up and we don't need a mask, we're on the beach, whatever. It's like, nope, here you go, put this on. There you go.
No excuses.
Yeah, yeah. And it'll make for a good Instagram shot or something with people,
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
We got to think of the marketing motion
Yeah.
of it too.
Exactly.
Everybody
Yep.
for the gram, put them on. Have you? I did see Plain White Tees did a recorded show or a live show the other day. I think. How you felt about like doing stuff like that on the internet? Like, has that been something you're interested in? Has it been like?
So I've been trying to do things just to stay connected. I've been doing. I launched this thing called the Wednesday Club on Plain White Tees Facebook, where every Wednesday. And this started, I'm almost a full year into it. I started I want to say May 19th or May 20th of 2020, just kind of going on the Plain White Tees Facebook page and just playing a few songs live. And then I let people, fans start voting for the set list. And so it became a very cool interactive thing. And I've been doing for Million Miler, trying to connect with people with that project. I've been going on Instagram Live and blasting like doing dance parties basically. So I'll like put together a little like Spotify playlist of like my favorite 80s songs, and then like mix in a Million Miler song here and there, and just like literally like
Nice.
like get some cool lights going, and like the same room from a different angle, and like just kind of dance around and just have fun with it. And so yeah, so I've been trying to do as many of those little I don't know what you'd call them, live streamed, just kind of live events through my phone, through social media and stuff. And at first, I got to say, it was really weird. And I was like, the first few times of doing it, I was kind of awkward and didn't really feel like I was a little nervous, or it was just different. But honestly, now I kind of feel like it's so, like I've gotten so used to it that now I feel like playing again is going to be the awkward thing. Like on a stage with real people, it's going to be like, what the hell do I do? So yeah, I think it's definitely something I've gotten used to, and I've found a way to have fun with it. And like I said, the whole thing is about staying connected and just, especially early on in the pandemic, really being able to give people something to do and something, a little bit of a break from all the, I don't know, just the paranoia and all the uncertainty that was happening at that point. And then it just became something that I really started to enjoy, and I feel like it meant a lot to a lot of our fans and stuff. So I just kept doing it. So it's been cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. People have had different opinions about doing the stuff on the internet, and you can't get that sort of immediate feedback, that sort of visceral response from somebody really feeling the music. But I love the idea of a dance party. That sounds actually like really cool.
So on New Year's Eve, I did a Million Miler dance party, and not, I feel like it's going to go down in history as as Million Miler starts to get bigger and bigger. People are going to be like, oh, like I saw the New Year's dance party, because I went on. I had this like thought, like, it was like around Christmas time. I'm like, man, like New Year's Eve is going to suck. Like nobody's going to go anywhere, right? Everybody's just going to be stuck at home New Year's Eve. So I'd already done a couple of those Million Miler dance parties. So I was like, kind of like, hey, screw it. Like I'm just going to freaking throw together like a long ass set list of a bunch of 80s songs and just have fun with it. And we made like a little flyer and everything and blasted it on all the socials. And I had like, I feel like throughout the night, there was all constantly like 40 to 60 people watching. And on New Year's Eve, to like I barely have that many followers at all on with that project anyway. So it's like the fact that there was like the best part was it was 6 hours long. I was on there for 6
Wow.
hours. I started
Wow.
at like I think 10 p.m. Chicago time, and I went until like I don't know 4 or 5 in the morning. It was
Oh, wow.
It was
God.
yeah, it was pretty wild, and it was just so fun. And like I said, like if I would have seen people start dropping off or like, oh, okay, people are going to bed, but like people were freaking hanging with me, and it was really, I don't know, to me it was one of the most memorable, like of all of the like online live stream, that one just felt like slightly more important or slightly just cooler or whatever, like a little bit above the rest, just because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of people appreciated it, and I just had fun, and it was like a way for us all, like, and especially, by the way, we were all really looking forward to getting out of 2020, so that like
Oh, yeah.
we had to find some way to ring in the new year in a fun way and celebrate it. So yeah, it was a really fun, memorable night, I think, for a lot of people. So yeah, that's definitely going to be one of those little points of interest on the map of Million Miler for sure.
When people look back and they're like,
They're be
yo,
like,
that
hey, I was at this thing. You weren't. You were somewhere else. I was there
Exactly.
at 4 a.m.
I need that 6 hour playlist.
It's
Like,
up actually on my Million Miler
oh,
Spotify. Yeah, the New Year's Eve
oh,
playlist is up there. I had to upload it, so there you go.
I mean, I might link that in our show notes when
Oh,
this
yeah.
podcast comes out. I might be like,
Hey
God,
guys, if you
get
just
in
need
there.
this real 6 hour fuel.
Yes, exactly.
We were joking before you joined the call. We were joking about like the 80s nostalgia and like how everybody loves the 80s. And I was like, yeah, but they weren't a part of it. I was born in 87. And I'm like, I'm not a part of it either. Like, I'm right at the end there.
You're a little baby being like,
Yeah.
what's up?
But like,
Hey, that's okay.
I still
That's
have
okay.
I still have that connection to like 80s music though. Like I'm still like, I don't know if it's just like that's what I heard when I was young or whatever, or just like it resonated with me in the right way. But it's like, yeah, I would listen to a 6 hour 80s playlist, hit the shuffle button and let that go.
I mean, I would strongly recommend it. I think it's good. There is like, we were talking about earlier. It's just that nostalgia, that comfort to it. Again, even if you weren't even alive in the 80s, like
Yeah.
you get the sense when you listen to a lot of that music, you can still feel the excitement. You can still feel the fun and the like the vibes, right? So yeah, I don't think you need to. You could be, born 5 years ago and still hear those 80 songs, and they're still timeless, and they still have that, that good feel to them. So yeah. So the playlist, yeah, if you need to kill 6 hours, that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I understand that. I was joking with Brian the other day because I'm a radio producer, so I was like going through some of our catalog, and I was like listening to all this like 90s alt hits that we got uploaded to our system, and I sent a message to Brian. And I said, oh wow, I'm just romanticizing what it would have been like to be a teenager in like the 90s or early 2000s because I was born in 94. And he was like, what are you talking about? Stop talking about that.
No,
But
I
it's
was
the
like,
same
I was
way.
like, yeah, those are great years. Those are good times. The
But
music and
it was a
great
good time.
times.
I'm like, I just want to be Daria. That's it. But it's definitely like almost the same thing. It's just like a different generation a little bit.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I was around for those, the 90s and stuff. That was kind of my, developmental years. And yeah, I don't know. It's like, I feel like everybody, like, no matter, like you just said, it's all, people are kind of the same. It's just different music or different styles or right, But I definitely think that was a really it was way different from the 80s, right? The 80s were kind of
Mm-hmm.
like the feel good, like, kind of celebrate life thing. And the 90s got a little bit darker and a little bit, of
Mm-hmm.
course, there was grunge and, like Seattle rained overall and literally rain. It's like the
Yeah.
weather, just the kind of the gloominess that brought. But it was a really cool time to like to grow up, I guess. But I kind of feel like the 80s were like in the 80s they were obsessed with the 50s, right? I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys like Back to the Future, Stand by Me, like all these movies kind of took place or went back to the 50s. And I kind of feel like in the 50s, it was like kind of a lot of positive things happening. It was like music was fun and like, rock and roll was starting and all of that, people were dancing and stuff like that. And then the 60s brought some turmoil, and music got a little bit more serious. And of course, the 70s then got kind of even darker in places. And then the 80s was like everybody was feeling good again. And in pop culture and in music, it was like, again, like there was an innocence to it, kind of reminiscent of the 50s. And I feel like that's now we can look back on the 80s as like the time before the 90s got all kind of sad and dark, and then the millennium and the internet and the 80s were kind of like the last moment before like life as we know it kind of started. It was
Yeah.
like the last age of innocence, much like the 50s were for those people. So yeah, there's something just like there's a just a lightheartedness or I don't know, they're just not as, they don't feel as heavy. There just feels something like more uplifting about listening to that music and that era for sure. Even the movies and everything.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I watched a video the other day that was talking very similarly, honestly, about emo music and pop punk music of like the early 2000s too. And it's like, is there a reason why certain music, like even if you're not nostalgic for it because you weren't there for it, it still hits you in a nostalgic way that like, kids now are like, yeah, Dear Maria is like my jam. And it's like, you weren't like you weren't there. It's like you weren't in 2006. Literally you weren't in 2006. How is it hitting you nostalgically? And it's interesting that like there's music like that and hearing you talk about it with the 80s, I'm like, oh yeah, it's the same thing. It's like I wasn't in the 80s, but like how much of that music like hit me in the right way? Like how many 80s hair metal bands did I listen to as a kid? And I was like, yeah, this is great. And then you're like, but I wasn't there. I never saw Motley Crue. Who cares? Why do I have nostalgic
Totally.
for Motley Crue? I never saw them.
Yeah, it's funny to think that like our like just that emo scene is like going to be somebody's 80s, right? That's going to be like people and
Oh my
already,
god.
like you said, it's already kind of happening. And I love the fact that like the whole SoundCloud rapper thing, like everybody freaking loves emo and everybody's trying to be emo
Mm-hmm.
and like it's so funny to me to think that like of all the bands of like the early 2000s, I feel like Blink 182 probably gets referenced the most in like this
Mm.
like a current culture of like I don't know whether it's like rappers or whatever. And to me, like Blink is great, but they were like the jokey, goofy pop punk band. They didn't really move any mountains for me. They were like
Right.
cool and they were like, they did their thing. But I feel like somehow they are like kind of one of the quintessential bands of the early 2000s. But yeah, it's like I said, we're already kind of seeing that. So yeah, are we nostalgic for our own our own time? I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess that's what the whole point of all this is, right?
Yeah. I mean, being a nostalgia podcast, being a nostalgia DJ set, being all this, it's like you're constantly thinking about like, what does nostalgia mean? Why does nostalgia make us do things? Why is it that like so many people are spending money on like legacy tours and shit. Like there's so much of that. And it's like, well, there's a reason for it. And obviously I am here for it. I'm all about it. I love it. You know, music I grew up with, but I'm like, well, there's something else happening here. There's some other movement with it that's happening that's just really interesting. And like, I'm like you said about the emo hip hop stuff is like, I'm really interested in seeing like this new music that like, I'm really into the, like a lot of these new artists that are coming out, a lot of the emo hip hop stuff I'm super into. And I'm like, I didn't even like all the music, like hip hop and pop music when I was growing up. Like that wasn't my stuff. And now I'm like, yeah, I love this. It's weird.
And like, and why? How is it happening? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just a very interesting, like you would never connect those dots. You know, 10 years ago, you would never be like, I'll bet you like rap and hip hop is going to go emo. Like what? You would never.
Yeah.
Seems like the farthest thing, but maybe that's why it is happening. Maybe that's why it's cutting through, because it is kind of cool and it is unique enough. And it's kind of it feels fresh because it is such an interesting combo that you wouldn't have expected, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like you see now, like Will Smith's daughter just drops a rock track with Travis Barker, obviously Blink 182. So we see that all like melding together, and people are like pretty into it for the most part, which is great to see. And because we're used to just like new metal, so like Linkin Park and Hollywood and Dead and other things like that, and now it's just like at this new forefront, and it's also like so much more accessible for kids who are in that genre as well. Just be like, you know what, I'm just producing at home, I'm doing what I want, I don't need to spend all this money in a studio. And it's cool to see that more coming out as well. And I did want to know, though, if you are able to talk about this demo you had mentioned earlier with the Plain White Tees. I don't know if it's going to be, you know, this emo rap hip hop or anything.
Is this where you announce your SoundCloud?
That's where you drop your SoundCloud link. But could you tell us anything about it, like sound-wise, or what you guys are expecting to go into it with?
So, again, it's in the early stages, you know, of thinking about new music for the Tees. But, you know, like I said, with our last Plain White Tees album, Parallel Universe, we tried to really push ourselves out of our comfort zone and experiment with a little bit of like synthy stuff, a little bit of more like, modern production and beats and, like I said, things that you would never expect from a Plain White Tees record. And that was awesome. And then the album, we're super proud of it. We love it. But, that kind of, like I said, that led me to pursue Million Miler, to pursue a project that could really, really do that authentically, because I feel like with Plain White Tees, because we are a bit more of like a known brand, it's kind of like, I think there's a level we can push it where people are like, man, like, that's really cool. But like, it's like you want, if you want Coca-Cola, you don't want new Coke, you don't want, you know what I'm saying? You don't want Coke watermelon. You want Coke.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I think that we kind of got that out of our system a little bit with like I said, with the last album, and again, with doing my side project and everything. So honestly, I feel like with this last year, especially of just getting to sit in this room and write a bunch of songs and kind of be introspective and have that space to create without any pressure or anything like that. I feel like this new Plain White Tees album is gonna kind of be a little bit more stripped down and I guess play to our strengths a little bit more. Just be more focused on just writing a good song, or, a song that connects to people with a really honest lyric, and not trying to dress it up in a modern way or with all the bells and whistles, to compete with, The Weeknd or something, and more of just like, let's just stay in our lane, and let's just find that way to be as authentic as we can. And so that's kind of where our head's at right now with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's It's honestly kind of refreshing to hear like, a band is like, I'm going to go to the studio and like stick to our roots and not just like throw a bunch of stuff in, which I feel like back in the day, that was the vibe.
We've been doing that for years,
Yeah.
always, well, because to be honest, and you guys probably know the history, it's like Plain White T's started as more of like a pop punk band, and so we've always had these acoustic songs on our albums, and those have always kind of been the ones that people have latched onto.
Mm-hmm.
And so over the years, it's been a little bit of like we still want to be this band that we started as, and we still want to do songs that are like, people are going to like mosh to, or people are going to, want to move people. But the ones that really connected were always the dialed back ones. And so like you said, it's like over the years, we've been just always wanting to do things and trying different things. But it's like kind of like slightly selfish if you think about it, like, I don't know, like I don't mean to say like give people what they want. Like it's just like a soulless thing. But obviously it's like when I sit down to write a song, I've got a choice of what it's going to sound like, or what it's, is it going to be a goofy song? Is it going to be try to write something more from the heart? Is it going to be something that, I've got this crazy concept that's super clever? It's like all kinds of ways you can approach writing a song. And I think that all of those approaches are great, and they can really lead to something special. But it seems like for Plain White T's, the more heartfelt approach has always been what has succeeded for us, and what is, connected with people the most for our band. And so I think that like, we've never really tried to like harness that in. Like I said, we've always kind of been wanting to do a bunch of different things. So again, one of the things with the pandemic, having that space kind of led to that realization. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
I like it. Yeah. Honestly too, it's like, I remember back in the day where everybody was like, well, EDM's getting really popular now. We're going to throw in some EDM. We're going to throw synths. We're going to do dubstep and everything. And then it's like, now that pop punk is kind of getting more popular, everyone's going to go like, we got to throw guitars. We got to have like, sad lyrics, get it together. Like going to be the exact, not to quote Fall Out Boy, but I'll quote Fall Out Boy. It's going to be a different kind of arms race.
Yeah, there you go. And it's very easy. It's like, because when something fresh comes out, you want to chase that, or you want to be like, dude, that's so cool. I love that. So you want to, you want to go a little bit of that direction, or find a way to kind of pepper that into what you do. So yeah, it's like no fault to like any of these, any artist that does that, for sure, because it's like it's very easy to want to. But yeah, it's all, obviously it's like the reason, like I when Skrillex came out, he blew my mind. Like it to me, Skrillex was as important as like the Beatles or Nirvana or Michael Jackson. It's like he completely took music in a direction that no one had ever really done before. And that was really exciting. But it's like, yeah, it's like, cool. Nobody is going to do it as good as Skrillex. So it, like, as much as the temptation would be to like, we got to do something like that. It's like, well, he's already got that covered, guys. Like, let's, like kind of stay in your own lane, or, find out what makes you special, And that's something that again, even though the world has told us time and time again with our hits and stuff, it's like, we've never really wanted to listen, or, we never really wanted to just be that thing that people really loved from us. And I'm not saying that we're going to make an all acoustic album or something, but just, like I said, just to be a little bit, a little bit more aware of the direction, I think, is the key.
Yeah. So no dubstep on the new record.
I never say never, but probably
it's an
not.
open book, possibly.
Yeah, exactly.
Look, it's only a matter of time until we start bringing dubstep back, and then I'll be right back in a different kind of nostalgia where I was into that too.
Totally. That's a great point. Yeah, like 7 years from now, maybe not even. Like there's gonna be some dubsteppy thing with like mixed with like, well, I don't want to say country because I feel like is it is it Luke Bryan or one of those guys is already kind of does like a kind of hip hop thing. I don't know if it's Luke Bryan. I don't really know country, but
Yeah.
It's one of them. I
anyway,
know for sure it's one of them.
there's gonna be yeah, there's gonna be something like dubstep is not dead. I promise that, right? There's gonna be some comeback.
At some point, yeah, it'll have to. Well, we've been recording for about an hour, so I want to make sure to give time for some plugs here. Let everybody know where they can find you, and then we'll talk a little bit more over on Twitch with our chat that's hanging out there. Cool. So yeah, where can people find all the groups, all the acts, all the bands, all the labels, all the stuff?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the hub would be Humans Were Here. That's the label that puts out all this music. So humanswerehere.com and at humans.were.here. It's like Humans Were Here with dots in between on Instagram. And for me personally, Higgy Pop is my Instagram handle, which is my last name is Higgenson. And back in the day, like 10 years ago, one of our sound guys started calling me Higgy Pop, and I just kind of caught on. So at Higgy Pop. And then yeah, Million Miler, millionmilermusic.com is the website. That's my 80s synth pop side project, solo project. Dropping a full length album, my debut album coming out May 10th, with the record release party at Zuma Beach. Anybody that's on the West Coast, come hang out, free, get some free swag. And yeah, you can pre-order the Million Miler album on vinyl. I'm making a cassette tape, and all kinds of cool merchandise. You can order that all at humanswerehere.com. And then yeah, Punk Project TLB, you guys, that probably honestly fits in more into this scene in this podcast. We didn't really talk too much about that, but yeah, I'm the drummer of a punk band called TLB. And we just put out an album. That was actually the first music I recorded in quarantine. We got together in August, super safe, masked up, did literally one person at a time with a producer and one person in the room. And we were like really anal about being just like as safe as possible, especially then, because then it was still kind of in the thick of it,
Right.
So yeah, so TLB, we got 2 albums out, so please check out TLB. And then of course, Plain White Tees, new music coming sometime soon in the near future. So there you go.
Perfect.
There you go. And I will also tell everybody, I actually saw TLB at the Double Door. They do
wow.
hits, so everybody, just so you know.
Hell yeah. Thank you.
Good recommendation. And yeah, we'll tell everybody to go check that out and just, play it over and over again. Just run up those numbers.
Hell yeah.
Are there you mentioned videos for YouTube? Are there going to be any music videos coming out for those projects, or is there anything?
So TLB has a bunch of really fun videos out already. Million Miler, I'm actually shooting my first 2 videos. We're actually, of course, with the 80s theme, we're doing a 2 videos with the same storyline, and one's going to be like to be continued at the end of it, kind of like a little Back to the Future vibe,
Oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so we're shooting those 2 videos actually next week. So hopefully, they probably won't be out by the time, by May 10th, by the album release, but definitely in May, there will be at least one, if not both, Million Miler videos.
There'll be like a certain amount of time between them. So it's like that to be continued leaves people like sitting at the edge of their seat wanting more.
I think there's got to, even though we're making them at the same time. Yeah, you're right. I think it's got to be, even if it's just like 2 or 3 weeks or something, like we got to have that cliffhanger, right?
Yeah.
That like at the edge of their seat, just waiting for
exactly.
Like, where is it?
Exactly.
You don't want to do it like Netflix where you just drop the whole season one day. You're like, no, hang out next week. Yeah,
then I guess to be continued, you're right. It wouldn't make sense then. So yeah, gotta give some space.
I like that a lot. Okay. Well, we are going to keep the conversation going over on Twitch. We're going to keep hanging out there with everybody. But in the meantime, Tom, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This is a lot of fun. Really stoked on all the new stuff. Love the music. So this was awesome.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. This was super fun. And yeah, it's fun because I've just spent so much time making all this music. It's like you got to remember sometimes, like, oh yeah, I actually have to go tell people about it, right? You got to like, promote it.
You have to go talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, of course.